Ladies and gentlemen, I never thought that I would be saying this, but this is a 1 hour and 3-minute video. The thumbnail was trash taste, so I think we might be watching a 1 hour video expose on Trash Taste Podcast. Think before you sleep. This guy's content is fucking crazy. I would highly recommend everybody checking this guy out.
One of the biggest lies that we have been telling in Western media is that Japan does not have feminism. I think it's really funny when people say that feminism doesn't exist in Japan because you are seeing it. I am obviously a feminist.
Okay, why the fuck is this alien with human skin peeled over her face talking like everybody gives a fuck?
Myself, so I support Japanese feminists.
Nobody cares. I swear these activists are the most annoying people on the planet. They constantly throw out the dumbest takes while pretending to be intelligent.
But you also kind of advocate a lot for feminism here in Japan.
I think a lot of feminists in Japan are trying to advocate for people to feel free to do what they want. And not only that, but to also not feel the pressure to become like a housewife or something like that, which you can do if you want to. But I think that you should have that choice and be able to say, okay, do I want to do this or do I want to have my career?
Is that supposed to be the same girl in the beginning of the video? Oh my God, that's an AI filter for her face. These people are so pathetic. I can't tell you how many OnlyFans sluts are like this, where everybody thinks they're attractive and they're wondering why they only post one photo a day. And then they see a video of them and they're like, ugh. Or they go on somebody's stream and they're like, what the fuck is that?
I think that you should have that choice and be able to say, okay, do I want to do this or do I want to have my career or do both?
Yes, that is the same person from the first video. She was using
There it is.
a face filter, which is never mind.
Yep.
Anyway, her great solution to helping a country that's already in an extreme birthing crisis is to take a population that's known for working so many hours that they can't develop a social life and encourage more of them to enter the workforce.
I'm sorry, if your problem as a woman is that you really don't want to have a loving husband that supports you in your business ventures while you stay at home and take care of kids and clean, bro, you need to get your priorities straight. That sounds like an amazing life. I don't know why the f you're so miserable where you wouldn't want that.
Well, then how do you fix the population crisis? Oh, right. We'll just fix that problem by destroying Japan's culture with mass third world immigration.
True.
You stress the importance of like feminism having
I just feel like we need more Indians, you know? I just feel like we need more Indians.
been around in Japan for much longer than we have. Is this something you regularly face in your comments as well? That, oh, you're a foreigner coming to Japan, you're bringing
all the
Western
time.
ideals here. It's not your place to speak about this.
Definitely. And I think people love to say like, oh, you're a white woman. I'm like, yeah, but I'm talking about stuff. I've researched this and it's all Japanese literature that I've looked at whenever I talk about these things.
No, you
I
haven't.
mean, this woman looks like a ghoul. Also, complete bullshit. Also, Chet, I want to remind you, you're a bad person unless you let in 2 million brown people illegally into your country today.
Which books? You certainly didn't read them in Japanese because I've looked at your content and there is no way that you know enough Japanese to read college level material. She says in the podcast that she only really studied Japanese for a year, which is nowhere near enough time to get literate enough to read difficult books. She doesn't speak.
If you train Japanese, that's something that you got to study for at least 4 years to have a general grasp on. Maybe you can participate in conversation a little bit earlier than that, but to read text, that's way different. And also, you got to like be studying that shit every day. It's a very complex language.
Japanese in any of her videos, which is a red flag. And the subtitles that she writes in videos like this on her YouTube channel are so awkward that they were almost certainly written by AI. So it looks like she uses AI for more than just face filters.
If this video is already going this hard on this chick that nobody knows, what the f is going on with Trash Taste? I'm so curious.
But I'm hoping that the more I talk about these things, the more that people will start to bring awareness. And I'm really hoping that we'll start to see more Japanese people and foreigners alike come together and think, okay, well, clearly this is not the exact image of Japan I had. And that's a good thing because it means that we can see what we have to change.
This is what I find to be most annoying. This girl is from England. She has been living in Japan for like 5 minutes. She doesn't speak the language and she's like, yeah, we have to change everything about this country.
If you live in another country, you need to learn that country's language. If you live in Japan, you need to know Japanese. If you live in America, you need to know English. If you live in Africa, you need to speak Kai Cenat. If you don't, you need to get the fuck out of the country. I am so tired of immigrants, illegal immigrants, telling another country how they need to run their country. It's pathetic.
The story of America is, shut up. This is the most annoying type of person. And as for me, as someone who has studied Japanese for years, if there are any political thoughts in my mind about Japan, it's not about how I can change all the things about their society that I don't like, but it is instead about how I can export the good things about Japan, like their very low crime rates. Which brings us to modern day Twitter, where Elon Musk just made it so that posts by Japanese people auto-translate into English.
The best change he's ever made. So good. So many gems.
And posts by English people auto-translate into Japanese. And after about 20 minutes of this, it started a cultural revolution that resulted in this flag here. Japanese people found out how much Americans like them,
and we found out how much Japanese people hate black people. Don't let them know I'm 22%, boys.
And Americans found out how much cultural appreciation of America that there is in Japan. So basically the sentiment of this moment in history was both countries saying, wait, you guys love steak, hate mass immigration, and have annoying, violent leftists in your country too?
Yep.
It's a little depressing learning that Japan has these screaming idiots too, but also seeing on Twitter that we both have the same trauma has been like cultural group therapy between the Japanese and Americans.
Japanese Twitter, I'm in the video! And American Twitter and English Twitter, we're kind of all bonding over being incredibly racist and hating illegal immigrants and migrants in general.
So there was a very positive shaking of hands between the Japanese and Americans. But the part that I think is more relevant to this video is that this change to how Twitter works revealed that a lot of political tactics that are being used to degrade America are also being used to degrade Japan. And ever since Nick Shirley exposed that Somalian immigrants in Minnesota were scamming taxpayers out of, what was it, hundreds of millions of dollars, we've also started asking where else these scams are being run, because if you think it's only happening in Minnesota, you're an idiot. Now, we've been told that we need these people in America due to labor shortages, but considering, all of the theft, and considering research like this that indicates that people from these cultures marked in yellow, orange, and red are a net negative on society, or at best, provide little to no economic value, I think that excuse is bullshit. But look where else the labor shortage excuse is being used.
I'm surprised that Australia is blue. That is very shocking to me. Somalia being dark red is not surprising to me.
The number of foreigners working in Japan hits an all-time high.
It's quite a cool thing to see. Much needed, given the decline in population. The LDP, the ruling government over the last sort of decade, has been kind of sneakily bringing in more and more people.
You are a fucking liar. If you are a resident of a country and you're saying more illegal immigrants is a good thing. Is this abroad in Japan? Is this Chris? What a lying douchebag. What a fucking poser.
They've done a pretty good job bringing in sort of 250,000 foreigners a year.
Isn't this guy's entire gimmick how much he's like the Japan guy? I bet you this guy doesn't even speak Japanese. What a fucking fraud.
To fill
abroad in Japan, more like a fraud in Japan.
The gap of workers, because there just aren't enough young people in Japan to fill all the jobs, the vacancies that are popping up.
Okay, so you have a few less 7-Elevens in Japan until the birth rates go back up. It's not a major sacrifice. Just watch in the next corner and you'll find another one. Supposedly, these work visas are for stuff like taking care of the elderly. But if you just walk around Tokyo for like 20 minutes, you can see that many of the newcomers are not working those types of jobs. Now, one especially nosy American foreigner might say, hey, why not do some investigation to see if you can create an effective plan of action to get Japanese people to have more kids, instead of importing tons of people from China on work visas who very often report that they hate Japanese people. If the ruling party in Japan has to sneak immigrants into the country, then that's probably because it's a policy that Japanese citizens don't like. But doesn't this sound so similar to America, where you have numerous different groups of third worlders who reside in our country, who wave the flags of their country of origin as they say America is a horrible place? Which brings us to this incredibly interesting video here from...
Y'all remember when Mexicans illegally came to America and were raising the Mexican flag in America while setting fire to the United States flags after they illegally immigrated to America? Well, then if you hate America so much, go back to your country. What a thought!
In Japan, of some sort of protest or demonstration with signs in English about racism, and if you slow it down, you can see that it's full of liberal women who clearly aren't Japanese.
According to their fashion and no shame dancing middle of the street, they're probably the Westerners
Yep.
And then they're holding this. So it's a I stand against racism. This is basically Japanese communist propaganda. I need to explain this.
True.
This is just a kind of group of people who call racist everyone. Everyone who against immigrations, everyone who against mass immigrations, everyone talk about foreigners, they call you racist. So it's...
Yep. Yes, I am. I'll go out of my way just to say racist shit because I don't give a anymore. They're going to call me it anyways. You're going to call me transphobic. You're going to call me homophobic. You're going to call me a grifter. You're going to call me racist. Okay, great. So then I guess I should just actually become racist just to make sure that you're right. What's the point of avoiding it if even innocent people will still be called that? There's no reason. Congratulations. You have now incentivized racism.
They're kind of like super toxic in Japanese society, in my opinion. And I really think it's rude. They moved to Japan because I think they don't love where they're from and they love Japan and they moved to Japan, right? Why do they think Japan should change for them?
True.
Again, as an American,
It shouldn't. No country needs to change for their illegal immigrants. That makes no sense.
I feel seen, I feel heard, because we have annoying white liberal communists in our country too, and we hate them.
I just think it's hilarious because who the fuck are you to tell somebody else that they can't live here? Because you were born here? Obviously, you never learned how to check your privilege, and other people just want to come here and live a prosperous life. Who the fuck are you to...
Hey, brother, how about I break into your house illegally, steal 40% of your shit, and then tell you that you need to change your apartment to how I like it while I f your girlfriend in front of you? Would you like that? Because that's what illegal immigrants are doing to the countries that they're going to. Only it's not consensual sex. They're raping the women of this country. So no.
Tell somebody else, I'm better than you. I deserve a nice life. You don't. Who the f are you to say that?
Well, since you asked, I'm an American citizen, and as an American citizen, I will say that it's not the moral obligation of Americans to allow newcomers to live here. If they want nice lives, then they can fight to fix their own countries. In fact, we don't have to let any immigrants live here.
True.
As for Japan, they don't have to let any of these communist immigrants live in their country either. They can just kick them out. Why would they take any of this shit from people who aren't even Japanese?
Yep.
Japan is not communist country. We don't want communism in Japan, okay? This Red Rose group, anyone who against them, you are racist. And just remember, they were professional of making racism out of nowhere.
Anyone who knows anything about communism doesn't want it in their country. So, much like in America, a lot of Japanese people have been pretty vocal about how they don't want tons of newcomers to flood into their country, and the newcomers aren't exactly peaceful about that. Which brings us to Yusuke Kawai, who's sort of a famous right-wing troll in Japan. If you want to have an American equivalent, maybe Alex Stein going to council meetings and doing stuff like this would be a good comparison.
AOC, my favorite big booty Latina. I love you, AOC. You're my favorite. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina. I love it. My favorite AOC. Nice to meet you, AOC.
Again, Yusuke is sort of a Japanese version of that. And so
Awesome.
recently, he was just north of Tokyo in Saitama, protesting a Kurdish festival because there's been a lot of friction between Japanese people and Muslims in recent years. And gee, I can't imagine why. Could it be because Muslims routinely try to force their values and Sharia law on the people of the countries they immigrate to? Or could it be the culture of violence that Muslim immigrants are known for? Oh, so I see the Japanese have known about this stuff for a while. Anyway, so at this Kurdish festival, someone punched Yusuke. Obviously, I can't show the actual hit because of YouTube, but it's pretty easy to find on Twitter. Now, I'll be honest, Yusuke reacted to the hit a little dramatically, kind of like he was auditioning to play professional basketball. But the overall point here is that there shouldn't have been a person to strike him in the first place. And when it comes to America, we really should be pushing for extreme penalties for political violence instead of the usual catch and release policy that we have now. If we stop tolerating it, it won't happen. Notice how people only block roads in California and New York instead of places like Texas or Florida where you're allowed to run them over.
Yep.
But because these radicals know they can get away with being forceful and being violent, they will keep getting in your face and keep doing
Yes, they
it.
will.
差別をやめろ今生きてる人間の邪魔すんのやめろ差別をやめろボケ差別をやめろ
Bro, he's talking like one of them anime. I swear to God, I heard this shit from fucking Fist of the North Star. I'm telling you, I've heard the same shit.
Yes, you heard that correctly. I'm sure this has nothing to do with woke Western liberals, but the term hate speech is a part of the Japanese vocabulary, and this guy appears to want someone to be criminally punished for saying Japanese people first, which is what is written on his sash.
Insane.
This is another incident with Yusuke Kawai, and I don't get why this guy is screaming in his face. I don't even see what the problem is with saying Japanese people first. Favoring your native population should really be the policy of every government. It's not a...
It's the same with every tribe ever. And this is how... I was having this conversation with Sophia the other day on how to tell whose opinions are shit and whose aren't. And the way that I do it is I kind of show it where if it works in totality, it's usually pretty smart to either listen to or not listen to. So like, for example, being trans. If everyone was trans, the world would go extinct. So obviously, it's a horrific idea. Allowing illegal immigrants to tell you what the native population should do would never work, because that means, in totality, that means criminals can break into your house and tell you how to live your life. It makes absolute no sense when you think about it in a broader spectrum. And if you really don't think that Japan should be Japan first, or Mexico should be Mexico first, or America should be America first, well, then you're just retarded.
Country's obligation to act as a charity for other countries. It's the job of immigrants to show that they are of value to the people who are already there, or they don't get to come. Otherwise, you just get a bunch of flunkies shopping around for whatever country gives them the most benefits.
Do babies born in Japan get citizenship?
It's like the biggest thing that I'm struggling with right now is I'm okay with gay people, right? No problems. What people do behind closed doors, that's their business. As long as it's between two consenting adults. I don't know how I feel about gay people being allowed to adopt children. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, because I do believe every child's life will be better if they have a mother and a father. And I saw a clip of two gay men raising a child as it cried for its mother, which did not exist in that house. And it was a heartbreaking film. I don't know how I feel about it. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it on whether I agree with it or not. But I'm still on the fence, and I'm trying to absorb information from both sides.
The simple answer is no. It depends on the parent's nationality.
Because it's unnatural, you know? It's unnatural.
But honestly, I've seen people ask, then what's the point of giving birth in Japan? It's more about the environment. Japan is safe, well-structured, clean, and that's the kind of environment that shapes a child mindset and future. What matters most to me is raising my child in a place that gives them discipline, exposure, and loads of opportunities.
Another cultural export that America should take from Japan: birthright citizenship to children born to non-citizens should be abolished. Outside of that, I don't see how watching a video like this wouldn't make someone who is a native of that country extremely mad. Countries are a team, and the last thing a country needs...
Birthright citizenship is complete fucking bullshit. They're not going to revoke it from people already taking advantage of it, but from this point forward, it should be completely abolished. I firmly stand on that. Birthright anchor babies are bullshit.
Is a horde of societal leeches who, instead of talking about what value they're going to bring to the group, they talk about how it's a much better place to socialize their child than their home country, or about all the benefits they get. This person is not loyal to Japan, just like the people who do that in America aren't loyal to America. They're just here for the free shit.
I think that if this is part of the Conservative rebrand to attract the young, it's deeply, deeply embarrassing. People don't want...
Why is it embarrassing to sing the national anthem?
And I think inviting people who are coming to your country, not because they think...
Wow, Piers Morgan actually asking a question that makes sense for once. That's shocking.
...think it's a great place, but instead because they want to receive welfare...
It should be revoked even for people who get their citizen that way? Listen, Wink, it should, but it's not. I just want a change. Obviously, I want a bigger change, but as long as we get something, that's better than nothing. And then once people see how good that was for the world, then we take more. We just need an inch, and then we'll take a mile, just like they do to us all the time.
It's an extremely dangerous thing. As I said, based on this Netherlands study, people from these countries are generally net negative contributors to society. They either cost the country money or provide little to no economic benefit, and in exchange, you get a bunch of people who don't speak your language and are loyal to other nations.
中国の悪口言わないでください。中国人ですよ。あ、そうなんだ。
Technically, this is assault. This is political violence. If it happened in America and it was my decision, this chick would be on a plane back to China. Zero tolerance for political violence. I'm so tired of this shit, and it will only stop when these people are brutally punished for it.
I agree.
If you don't think it's that bad,
the man who killed Charlie Kirk should be viewed. We should put him in an acid bath on New York Square.
Then imagine if a man did this to a woman. Now, there is...
And also, free the police officer that got falsely arrested for George Floyd. George Floyd died of drug overdose. He did not die of asphyxiation or any damage to the neck, and you can see that in the autopsy. And that police officer is still in jail. Ridiculous. And the only reason why they're not letting him out is because they know the black people would go and cry victim even more than they already are.
Some missing context here.
Everybody knows
I'm not sure what the lady said that was so offensive that she deserved to be grabbed, but everything she said afterward was incredibly based. Basically, she's saying that it's not a smart idea to flood Chinese people into Japan and allow them to naturalize, because if you do that, they will start outvoting Japanese people and destroy the culture. Gee, isn't that yet again an incredibly similar problem to what we see going on in America, as we have like 10 different racial groups who are not assimilating and creating their own insular communities and outvoting the native population in certain areas. Right now, Texas is basically being invaded by India. This state is unrecognizable from the state that I moved into several years ago, as it is very easy to walk outside and be in an environment where 80 to 90% of the people aren't speaking English. I feel like a foreigner in my own country. And by the way, tons of them have...
I'm not gonna lie, I went to TJ Maxx the other day. There was like 50 people there all waiting in line. There was not anybody who spoke a lick of English, and every cashier was bilingual. It is very uncomfortable to feel like a foreigner in your own country.
Have committed fraud to move here. Now, outside of birthright citizenship, I'm not sure what the laws are around this stuff in Japan, but as for America, the fact that we let foreigners do stuff like hold political office is insane. You should not be able to hold any office if you were foreign born, because that's what's been allowing them to one by one create insular and non-assimilated communities and take over entire cities and counties. This has been destroying American values and culture. Only people who are born in America to American citizens should be able to hold office.
True.
Now, I'm all for exploring other cultures.
Agree.
I love seeing the ideas of other people and how other countries operate. But when it comes to political influence from foreigners, we should be far more protective of American values.
Agreed.
今日本語喋れなくても帰化ができるし、5年ですよ。5年住んで日本語喋れなくても帰化できるんですよ、日本のシステムだと。それは緩すぎるんですよ。帰化を厳しくしろ。
I believe that's the same woman from before who was attacked by the Chinese lady, saying that it only takes 5 years to become a Japanese citizen, just like in America, and you don't even have to be able to speak Japanese that well. Though I think Japan is changing.
You should have to be fluent in the language of a country to legally migrate there. I fully believe that. I fully stand by that.
This law to 10 years, and America should follow in their footsteps so that it's much harder for political cheaters to just import voters.
Yep.
But this lady brings up interesting points that I want to talk about here, which is why we need to be careful about who we allow into the country, and we should probably make it harder for foreigners to influence our politics.
True.
I don't think becoming a citizen should be impossible for newcomers, but it should be harder. Because in addition to all the other stuff I've said, unless they have immigrated from a country that speaks the same language, an extremely uncomfortable number of immigrants have a very low proficiency in the national language of the countries that they immigrate to, which makes them super easy to manipulate. And what I found is that this is not just because of certain cultures immigrating, it's actually a function of any unchecked immigration. Now, I'm not saying that the culture doesn't matter. The culture of the immigrant absolutely matters. However, immigrants in general tend to engage in offending behavior unless standards are set.
According to a survey to foreign workers, about 70% can't speak Japanese well. Among them, 30% hardly speak, and about 50% only manage a basic conversation.
So I would love to think that these stats exclude people who are in groups that I belong to. However, it is quite common for Americans and other Westerners to immigrate to Japan, reside there for many years, and speak either very little or no Japanese. And to talk more about that, allow me to direct your attention to a YouTuber podcast that's filmed in Japan.
Yeah! Let's talk about it! Thought I got baited for a second. All right, let's talk about it.
Called Trash Taste.
Welcome to another episode of Trash Taste.
First B-roll and Hassan is in the shot. Oh my God, why is he so small and why is his head even smaller? Jesus Christ. All right, boys. We're here. Let's talk about it.
I'm joined once again by the boys, and we have a returning guest.
A returning guest is crazy. Not once, but twice.
Because you're back in Japan now.
Yeah, I did show that clip for a specific reason.
We can tell.
I was a fan of this podcast until they spent multiple episodes glazing a famous pro-communist terrorist animal abuser named Hassan Piker. That's a lot of qualifications.
That is.
Anyway, as I said, Trash...
I also used to really love Trash Taste. Right now, to be honest, not a big fan of Giguk. Not a big fan of Sea-Dog. Not gonna lie. Joey's all right, but the Lolicon shit is mad weird. I'm not gonna lie.
Taste is a podcast in Japan featuring 3 hosts named Joey, Connor, and Garnt who talk about anime, food, Japanese culture, and tell cute little personal stories about what it's like to live in Japan.
You know what it was? I used to like this podcast a lot. And then I noticed a pattern, and I saw a hyper compilation of all 3 of them just shitting on America nonstop. It's like the entire podcast is America bad, Japan good. America bad, Japan good. Because I genuinely feel that if you think America is a shitty country, I think you're just retarded. And the amount of America hate for no reason is ridiculous.
Public onsen in Niseko. Niseko is a very famous ski resort in Hokkaido. It's also famous for being a Japanese ski resort with 0 Japanese people in it. Mm-hmm. It is so goddamn expensive that no Japanese people are there.
It's basically Australia.
I was at a bar in Niseko after skiing, and I was lining up, and there was this Japanese guy, and he was super talkative and genki. And I was joking. I was like, "Hey, you're like the only Japanese guy I've seen here." And he's like, "Oh, yes." like he realized he like in real time that his friends had all been priced out or something. Like, I don't know. Like
it's the first time he realized he's a minority in his own country.
Yeah, it was crazy. There's like not a single Japanese person.
Yeah. Huh. Japanese people are getting priced out of their own local spots because of over-tourism. Gee, I wonder whose fault that is. And for the people who are going to actually me because the tourists aren't all Westerners, note that these guys also have their tourism content translated into other languages. Now, as it relates to this video's topic, the reason that I want to talk about this podcast...
I would like to say again, I don't believe that anybody should feel like a minority in their own country.
...is because 2/3 of it, Connor...
I'm not gonna lie, since I moved here, 3 white families have moved out and 3 Indian families have moved in. And it's like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, like that shit's gonna affect the property values. Like I'm not even like, once again, it's not that I don't even like Indians. It's not. Like they're fine. Like I'm cool with all races. I don't care. I'm not inherently racist or hate any race at all. I will say Somalians are retarded, obviously, but that's just like statistical data. But like, it is just frustrating where like, all I want, you can call me a racist if you want, I don't think there's anything wrong with me just wanting to live in a white neighborhood. Straight up. Why are blacks allowed to live around blacks? And that's fine. But if I'm a white dude and I just want to live in an all-white neighborhood, why is that so bad? It's nice. And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Every now and then I walk past an Indian's house and it smells like buttered chicken and chimichurri. It's not too bad. Or chicken tikka masala. It's not too bad. But what's annoying is like when I'm walking around, right, as a, me as a white guy walking around with my golden retriever and my beautiful brunette wife, and then there's just like a group of them walking in their fucking wizard cloaks and they're all dancing in the street. I don't know. It's just like, why are we doing this? Can we not do that in our house? Like, why are we doing this? And then they all congregate to like take over little spots, and I don't know why they're doing this. It's weird, bro. It's weird. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's just getting too much, man. I understand wanting to let a bunch of foreigners in the country, but there's too many. It is. There's too many.
And Garnt have been living in Japan, well, we're getting closer and closer to 7 years every day, and they speak almost no Japanese, which really makes them some of the biggest tourists in Japan.
Absolutely.
Not only that, but this podcast relates to a bigger foreigner in Japan YouTuber group filled with numerous people who also speak little to no Japanese, like Abroad in Japan and Premiere 2, who have both lived in Japan for over a decade and are not fluent.
Really?
And they aren't even close to fluency either.
They lived in this country. They made their entire content the fact that they live in this country, and they don't speak the language and deport them.
Fluency, I mean that you can have a non-routine, spontaneous conversation with an adult native speaker without having the native speaker significantly dumb down their language so that you can understand them. None of the people in question in this video are anywhere near that good at Japanese. The only exception to the rule here is Joey, who is a native speaker, so if you're wondering why I'm not talking about him in the video, that's why. That being said, I've been studying Japanese for a number of years now, and I've really started improving a lot since I began taking it seriously about a year and a half ago. So at this point, I would like to be as transparent as possible with how good I am at the language, because recently, as I've gotten much better...
Is he about to flex his Japanese talking skills? No way.
I've come to find out that a lot of people on YouTube lie about their foreign language abilities.
Having spent, 13 years in Japan, it's important, I think, to protect Japan's cultural identity to some degree, and people have to, if they're going to permanently live and build a life in Japan.
This guy saying this while not speaking the language of the country he's in is so hypocritical, it's insane.
It makes sense that they should be able to communicate in the language. Not necessarily to a native degree. I wouldn't be able to say I could speak or communicate in Japanese to a native level, but I'd say I'm like fluent conversationally.
Yeah.
Can read and write and whatnot.
Bro, I've seen numerous examples of your very limited Japanese. I've had native speakers review it, and there is no way in hell that you are anywhere near conversationally fluent in the way that most people envision. He's not literate either, and he's spoken numerous times about not studying, this being one of the examples.
It is the most...
You have to study Japanese to speak it. It is such a complex language.
Incredible thing, learning Japanese. Probably my favorite thing about living in Japan, full stop.
Oh, this guy is such a liar. It's insane.
He's studying the language.
Him saying that studying Japanese is one of his favorite things is probably the most egregious lie that he's told his fan base about his language proficiency. Anyway, that was friend of Trash Taste Chris Broad, who owns the biggest foreigner in Japan YouTube channel called Abroad in Japan. You might recognize him as the guy from earlier who was promoting third world immigration. I think his skill at Japanese is B1 on the European scale based on the clips that I've seen. He's probably around 2 years of study away from the kind of fluency that he pretends to have. For those of you who don't know, the European language scale is one of the most commonly accepted ways of mapping people's language proficiency. If you look at the scale on screen, I would say that my language ability in Japanese is B.
If it was my entire personality and my entire business to be abroad in another country, you bet your ass I would be studying their language every fucking day.
B2, which is what I would consider to be basic fluency. This means I can talk about any topic I desire, but I might lack specific words that would make my life easier. So if I wanted to talk about politics, I might say person on the left or person on the right, instead of liberal or conservative.
Sure.
Politics is difficult because there are like 7 different ways to describe the left and the right. Now, based on the prior definition that I gave, I do not consider myself to be genuinely fluent in Japanese. I think most regular people would say that when they think of someone being fluent in a language, the description for C1 is what they have in mind, with an emphasis on being able to express yourself easily or fluently in spontaneous conversation. A spontaneous conversation is like a general conversation about a random topic like video games or politics or some school subject. A routine conversation would be like ordering food, casual greetings, or a self-introduction. And for language learners, I caution you because a lot of people on the internet will trick viewers into thinking that they are fluent by showing routine conversations that are very easy to learn within a couple of weeks. That's how polyglot scams work.
My name is Language Simp, and I am a...
It's like people who actually believe Duolingo can teach you an entire language in a month. It's like you had to be so fucking stupid to actually believe that.
hyper polyglot alpha male giga chad. Today, I'm going to be reading from a script in a bunch of languages that I don't know anything about in order to try to make a lot of money off of YouTube ad revenue. I just memorized these phrases from Google Translate this morning, but I'm sure that dumb Americans are gonna eat this shit up like Big Macs from McDonald's.
Outside of that, Japanese is a very standardized and popular language, so I've mapped out what I need to go from B2 to real fluency, which is C1, and I can get there in maybe 6 months or so. I'm not saying that to gloat, I'm saying that to point out that any of the complicated translations for Japanese in this video were checked over.
Oh, he better prove it, and he better start speaking some Japanese, brother. Hey, put your money where your mouth is. Let's hear it, man. Start speaking to Japanese.
Or done by a native speaker or someone who has achieved mastery in the language. It would be nice if some of the people that I'm talking about in this video who film interviews and ask questions that are way above their skill level in Japanese were more transparent about that. But now that we've gotten all the expository information out of the way, allow me to just re-emphasize that it's not only illegal immigration that's the problem. We should also be paying attention to the behavior of legal immigrants who are long-term residents as well, especially when they don't offer the most fundamental courtesy as a person who is an outsider, which is learning the primary language of the country that they move to. We'll start with the most embarrassing example, which comes from Garnt, who also goes by Giguk on YouTube.
And let's be honest, guys, whether you like or hate Garnt, the anime he put out sucked absolute ass. And the only reason why people are glazing it is the same reason why people are glazing Iron Lung by Markiplier. And that's because movies created by creators that are quote unquote beloved get overglazed when they're absolute trash. And I'll be real, when Bloodborne, the movie, comes out and Jacksepticeye fucks that up too, trust me, everybody's going to be talking about how great it is. Sorry, man. Is what it is.
Now, to preface this part, I was wasting time on Twitter debating Trash Taste fans, saying that none of them speak Japanese except for Joey, and this was a video recommendation given by one of their fans, who assured me that Garnt speaks Japanese. You've got to be kidding me. Why am I studying so much if all I have to do is be able to say, yoroshiku onegaishimasu, and everyone will think I'm fluent? That's lesson 1 of Japanese. I could have just stopped there. If you don't know what yoroshiku onegaishimasu means, it's kind of difficult to translate without paragraphs of information, but basically it's something that you say to be polite. Hajimemashite means nice to meet you. That one's easy. So this is a video about Garnt producing an anime, and he has a translator carrying the weight for him the entire time.
How would you pronounce house in Thai?
Ban.
Note that there are multiple moments in this documentary where Garnt speaks Thai, so if he actually spoke Japanese, then he would almost certainly be showing that off.
True.
Now, initially, this part was going to be much longer to fully prove my point, but after I saw this video, I cut all of it because the video makes it apparent that Garnt has barely studied Japanese. I would have trouble saying that he's achieved A1 on the European scale, which is beginner level. I mean, is it even anime if the creator doesn't speak Japanese? Though, as a former fan of Trash Taste, this really shocked me. I was actually also pretty shocked about how low Chris Broad's Japanese level was as a former fan. I was a fan of Abroad in Japan until he altered a video of a friend of mine to make it look like she was laughing at homeless people, which is defamation.
Wait, that's crazy. And if that video was like wrong, that shit would have got obliterated by Abroad in Japan and Trash Tate's influence. That shit still had a 90% approval rate. Did he ever apologize? Probably not, knowing YouTubers' egos.
But the reason the whole language thing shocked me is because I've watched them talk about learning Japanese and studying numerous times on the podcast, so I thought they were staying current and trying their best to become really good at the language, but it turns out they hadn't really studied at all.
You're going to Japanese school,
I am going to study now.
I go once a week for like 1 hour. No, 2 hours.
It's my speaking skills. I don't have...
You have to study that shit every single day if you actually want to be fluent. Wow. I also thought they were fully fluent. That's actually so fucked up. Their entire personality is, I live in Japan, and they don't even speak the language. Bro, this is like straight up tourist activity.
As much experience actually outputting. That's the big challenge for me. Here's the problem, guys. I am an introvert when I speak English. Now, imagine being an introvert and not really speaking so much, except you have to practice a language you're not so familiar in. Bro, that's trying to learn a new language and trying output is so hard naturally.
How do you have bad speaking skills when you live in Japan? Go outside. I mean, you're rich. Just pay for italki. He's totally lying here. He's not antisocial. He doesn't talk to Japanese people because he's a beginner and he can't speak the language. Based on this documentary, Garnt literally only knows words that you hear in anime.
Yogata! Sugoi! Minasan, konnichiwa! He's speaking Japanese!
For those of you who don't know what a weeaboo is, they try to learn Japanese through the anime they watch and usually end up pronouncing it wrong and looking like a complete idiot.
I'm glad to see that after, holy shit, 11 years, that nothing has changed. But these guys don't have kids. How are they so busy? I also work ridiculous hours and I still find time to study.
Crazy.
I mean, shit, this guy learned Japanese, Garnt. You can hear him speaking it in your documentary. Going back to the stats from Nobita's video, this is not only common, it's actually the norm for Western foreigners to immigrate to Japan long term and either speak no Japanese or very little Japanese. Just for reference, Connor and Garnt moved to Japan in November of 2019, so they've been living there for 6.5 years. Both of them are beginners and can barely speak an entire sentence. For clarity, 6.5 years is more than enough time to get fluent without even that strict of a study plan.
Sure.
Premier 2 has been living in Japan for like 14 years, I think, which is more than enough time to be almost as good as a native speaker. He's still a beginner who knows maybe 10 words. Chris Broad, or Abroad in Japan, has been living there for 13 years. His Japanese is maybe lower intermediate level. A real key piece of evidence.
And that's crazy, because if this video is wrong, they can prove him wrong immediately. But I have a feeling they're not going to do that
They aren't even close to fluency is that you can't find videos of them speaking Japanese for extended periods of time. You can't find them doing something like a 20-minute interview where they only speak Japanese. Whereas when people are actually fluent, it's super easy to find them speaking.
本当はカタカナ英語って言いたいところなんですけれども、英語って言い切ってしまうとコメント欄でこれだからアメリカ人は全部が英語だと思いやがってって言われたりするんで、カタカナの言葉外来語です。
That's a Japanese pop singer from America named Nicholas Edwards, who moved to Japan around the same time that Chris Broad did, maybe a year or so before. And if you can't tell, Nick's Japanese is phenomenal. This is probably the best I've ever heard from a non-native speaker. And unlike our experts in all things about Japan, like Chris Broad or the two non-Japanese members of Trash Taste, you can easily find Nick speaking for extended periods of time. You can find him saying complicated things, and unlike Chris Broad and the Trash Taste flunkies, you can find him pronouncing things correctly without an incredibly thick accent. The reason that you can't find these other guys, except Joey, speaking Japanese for a long period of time is because none of them are anywhere near fluent. And the reason for
That's actually crazy, because the only one I've ever heard speak consistent Japanese is Joey. I actually think he's 100% right about this.
For that is because they all live in foreigner bubbles. Now, I've already showed this clip in a different video, but I think it bears repeating to show the difference in lifestyles between someone who cares to learn the language and someone who is pretending to.
That's crazy that these people are the exact same as the Mexicans who go to your TJ Maxx and don't speak a lick of English and then tell the United States how they need to change everything for them. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Care to get viewership from people who can't tell how bad his Japanese is. So here's the only video in existence where you can find Chris speaking Japanese for more than like 2 seconds, and basically he just tells on himself the entire time. I don't know why he said any of this shit if he wants people thinking he's good.
Cosmo86 suggested speak only in Japanese, so for the entire day. Can you do it, Chris?
できますよ. No problem, I can do it, but I do need a few coffees. I find in the morning, which is now I'm crap at Japanese, it just doesn't come out my head, so I haven't actually spoken Japanese in a long time.
It's good practice.
I really don't speak it as much as I should, because a lot of my friends speak English rather well.
That's the thing. They always want to practice English.
So you don't speak Japanese? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, gotcha. So you're a tourist. Okay, gotcha.
You feel bad speaking Japanese with them.
It's going to be pretty tough, I think.
You haven't spoken in a while? You live in Japan. Go outside. If you're conversationally fluent, I'm not saying that you have to speak every day, but how do you live in Japan and go like a week without speaking Japanese? Also, Chris surrounding himself with only people who speak English is a key indicator that he doesn't give a shit about learning the language. It says that Chris has no interest in Japanese people at all, as someone who has chosen to live in their country. And if you don't understand how bad this is, then listen to the lifestyle of someone who is actually good at the language.
Imagine Trash Taste getting deported. That's crazy, because if Japan is open to foreign policy changes, like we're doing in America here, there's a chance that these people actually get deported. That would be so funny. What the f would Trash Taste even be if they weren't just a bunch of posers? Like in Japan. How would that exist if they had to go back to America to do it? That would be insane. It would be a 1 out of 10 video. True.
I speak English, I mean, not even 1% of the time. I don't work with anybody who speaks English natively. Japanese people don't want to speak English with me because I speak Japanese.
Right, you're in Japan and you've been there for a while, so why would you almost exclusively be speaking English? No one found it weird when Chris said that? How does your Japanese get rusty when you live in Japan?
True.
As for Nick, who is actually good, note that he said that Japanese people don't want to speak English to him. Personally, I've noticed that if Japanese people are trying to speak English to you, it's because they think you're bad at Japanese.
Yep.
It's their country and they want to speak their language.
True.
And if you don't see how offensive everything these long-term tourists are saying is, then listen to this.
If you're spending 10 years in Japan and you're working in Japan and your friends are Japanese, you don't want to spend your whole life knowing that people are holding back because they're worried that you might not understand, or you might not get a joke, or you might not get this, or you might not get this reference or that reference. That's not the best feeling. I live in Japan and I know that my life is here, so I want to make sure that I'm not having to like miss out on anything, I guess, just because I started at a completely different place than everybody around me.
I think that listening to Nick speak about his experience in Japan and then comparing that to the trash taste friend group just makes them look like complete assholes. Nothing has pushed me more to learn Japanese than going to the country and wanting to speak with the people who are there. So when you go 6 to 14 years and you can barely speak, it says to me that you don't care about the native population of the country that you're a resident in.
Yeah, and you believe everyone else around you should change rather than you change for everybody else around you when you're in their property.
All right, we haven't even gone over Connor from Trash Taste. Connor is the master of overstating how good he is at Japanese. And I want to get into this for one because it gives everyone an idea of the mindset of the people who immigrate to a country and refuse to learn the language. Now, if you're a tourist or a short-term resident, I don't care if you don't speak the language, just respect the natives and don't break the law. But when it comes to long-term residents, especially when it comes to America, because that's where I live, I really want to use this to display how eager tons of immigrants are to take the benefits of a country as they stay in their own insular foreigner communities and make little to no effort to assimilate into the culture they're benefiting from. I'm doing this in the hopes that Americans will start getting a little bit more upset when people reside in our country for over a decade with zero language proficiency in English.
It pisses me the fuck off, bro. I'm not gonna lie. It is so fucking annoying. Dude, I dated a Mexican back when I was in high school, and my God, none of her family spoke English. None of them. It was the worst shit ever, bro. And they would all shit on me in Spanish because I spoke a little bit of Spanish back then. And I understood just enough that they were just calling me a stupid fucking white boy, and why is this white boy in our house? It was awful. It truly made me feel like I was living in a simulation.
Because things like that are bad for the US. Second, I'm kind of tired of so many influencers lying about their language abilities, and Chris Broad and Trash Taste lie to their fans so frequently about their skill level at Japanese, either directly or by omission, that basically all of their fans think they're pros. And don't gaslight me on this, I've wasted an embarrassing amount of time arguing with their fans on Twitter. Let's just say it was research so I can cope. But during one of these conversations, a fan of Trash Taste who said I was a clown kindly provided me numerous links and assured me that Connor definitely speaks Japanese.
Oh, here we go. Dude, I cannot tell you how often your haters will provide you with the most beneficial links of all time. It's amazing.
I gotta say, I've never seen a more incriminating set of videos that makes Connor look bad. Now, I'm going to note that the upcoming clips are from different time periods, but I really don't see much of a difference in Connor's Japanese between the older clips from right when he moved and the ones that are more recent. So I'm showing this moment first to say that this is the best clip of him that I watched. Let's see how good Connor has gotten during his time in Japan.
はい、負けていないとワイドショックでクッキーリカプチお願いします。以上です。追加でお願いします。
Are you YouTuber?
Yeah, I'm YouTuber. Yeah, yeah.
日本のことを発信してますか？
そう。日本4年住んでいます。
4年？
そう、4年。
Wow, Nihongo Jozu, so he can order food and say how long he's been living in Japan.
Nihongo Jozu. I also say, I have to say, the Sea Dog Iron Mouse shipping content is just about the gayest shit I've ever seen, bro. Like when Iron Mouse was on an iPad being bounced by Sea Dog and she was giggling like she was there with him. Oh my God, that was so corny, bro. Come on.
This is literally one of the first few lessons in Japanese. You can teach someone how to have this entire dialogue in 1 week. These are all extremely routine conversation points that he goes through every day. Notice how the cashier immediately switches to English when something out of the customer cashier routine is asked.
Yeah, because it's in such broken Japanese, she knows she needs to speak English to ask the question.
And also notice as the conversation switches back to Japanese and she asks him what he's streaming, instead of elaborating on the question, he says yes and then moves the conversation back to a routine dialogue tree that he can easily understand by saying that he's been living in Japan for 4 years. This is how I can tell he's a beginner, because when you start speaking, you can't say what you want to say, so he has to continue the conversation by saying what he can say. What I mean by that is that it sounds unnatural if the cashier says, "Are you streaming stuff about Japan?" And Connor says, "Yeah, I've been living in Japan for 4 years." That sounds weird. A more natural thing to say would be something like, "Yeah, I'm showing my friend around Tokyo." But his Japanese isn't good enough to move away from the standard self-introduction dialogue tree, which indicates that his language ability is not very good. Nothing about this conversation is really spontaneous. Go to Japan for like a week and you'll have this type of conversation like 50 times. Anyway, now that I've shown his best clip, let's travel back in time 3 years to Connor after he'd been in Japan for a year, so we can hear him talk out of his ass about how good he is.
How good is Connor's Japanese on a scale of 1 to 10? That depends what you consider 10. Is 10 fluent and 1 is 0? And I guess 5 is conversational? I guess I would put myself at a 3, maybe? Like, not quite good enough to hold conversations, but good enough to get my point across.
Connor, you are nowhere near that good. I'm guessing he's overconfident because he's done well with a couple of memorized dialogue trees, but try having a conversation that's more than 2 minutes and I'm sure he would fail. I would love to see if he could even complete a 30.
It's crazy how there's not a single clip that exists that could exonerate them from this when they've been doing this content for nearly 8 years. Because a video like this is so interesting because if it was disprovable, it would already exist.
30-minute italki trial lesson without switching to English. Again, keep in mind that this video was done multiple years before the cookie livestream with the cashier, and if we're judging his skill based on that video, and conversational is a 5 out of 10, then he's a 1, because all he can do is routines.
Let's do it. Let's do Duolingo. Here we go. Write this in Japanese. It's a good start. I like that. Yo. Oh, it's wrong.
Imagine you go on this big diatribe about how good you are at speaking Japanese, and not only do you misspell the word for good morning, which is one of the first words that you learn, but also it's spelled in Japanese for you right below the answer box.
Math? What is math?
Another beginner word that Connor messes up, despite him telling his audience that he essentially is more than halfway to conversational fluency. The characters for map are something that you learn when you study 2nd grade kanji, so it's definitely a very standard word that you would learn very early on. That being said, let's return to this clip.
Are you going to Japanese school? I am going to start in
I go once a week for like 1 hour. No, do 2 hours, 2 hours.
This is basically no effort. You might as well just not study at all. That's why he sucks in all these clips. You'll never get fluent in Japanese with 1 lesson a week. This is what I'm talking about when I say that so many of these people want the benefits of living in a foreign country without doing any of the work. You need at least 1 hour of study per day to get fluent in Japanese because it's a hard language for English speakers. For something easier like a Spanish speaker learning English, you probably can get away with 30 minutes a day of active study, and the rest is going outside and interacting with the natives. Anyway, let's fast forward a few years.
But the worst part about speaking somewhat Japanese, I'll say, the first parts of the conversation, I sound like I know my shit. I sound like I know everything.
Connor, they can
yeah, when I say Ohio, everybody thinks I'm fluent.
Instantly tell that you're not that good because you mispronounce words constantly, just like Chris does.
You'll go to a restaurant in Japan, right? You'll sit down and there's always the questions they ask you. You sit down in the restaurant and then she starts talking like super fast, the waiter or he starts talking super fast in your ear, right?
Yeah, she says, hello, may I take your order like every other waitress does, and I just get so confused. Like, how are people even pretending that think before you sleep is wrong here? I don't get it.
Taken off guard, so I'm not listening. So now I'm like losing, right? And then she'll just be like, and then she'll just say a word like arugi, and then cup, right? So it's like I don't even know what you said. You could have been talking for 30 seconds, and all I heard is the word allergy, and then you ended it in a question.
It sounds dumb, but allergy in Japanese is pronounced arerugi.
Arerugi.
Arerugi. Connor is definitely nowhere near being able to watch anime without subtitles. And note that when I bring this stuff up, I'm not expecting them to have a perfect Japanese accent. That's very difficult to do. What I am saying, though, is that after years of living in Japan, they don't even have a good understanding of the basic phonetics of the language. And I mean, also they make beginner mistakes all the time that are very noticeable if you...
Dude, I love this because this dude is such a hater at Trash Taste. I love it. I think this is hilarious. You got to be such a hater to say, F these frauds, they don't even speak Japanese. I'm going to drop a 1 hour video on their ass.
Speak the language at just an intermediate level. So imagine what Chris, Connor, and Garnt sound like to natives.
You know when I did the IRL stream at Maylene's house? On the way over there, the taxi driver spoke to me the entire time. And the first 10 minutes of the conversation were pretty chill. I understood like everything he was asking me. He was just asking me about what I do for work, what kind of foods I like, you know, why am I in Japan? You know, he's telling me about his life and stuff. And then he started asking me stuff about my hobbies. And I started trying to explain some things to him that was really hard for me to explain because my talking isn't as good as my listening. And then he started telling me about his life. And I just started like finding it so hard to keep track of what he was saying because he was talking for so long. I was trying to change the conversation to get to easier stuff so that I didn't have a harder time following.
Connor, if you're listening, there is no way that you were that good at Japanese at the time of this video. When I first watched it, I nearly lost my shit laughing when he started off with, yeah, so I don't understand like 90% of what's being said to me at restaurants, and then moved on to, yeah, so I had a pretty good conversation in Japanese with my taxi driver. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Anyone who has actually taken Japanese seriously can tell that these guys are terrible at it. Really, how fluent someone is can be measured by what degree they're able to have spontaneous conversations. And Connor starts the video off by admitting that he can't even understand the restaurant script that he has likely heard 200 times by that point. Just to be clear, there are two parts of this conversation. The part where Connor says that things were easy, and that's because he was answering basic self-introduction questions. This is the part that he says that he handles well, and then the instant non-routine questions are asked. He admits that his Japanese level is terrible. So it looks like he's being honest here. He's not trying to mislead people.
Here's what I'll say. It's very obvious that they have no idea how to speak Japanese. I think it's very cringe where their entire personalities are, we hate America, we love Japan, when they have failed to integrate to that country in any sense of the word, especially with the bare minimum be to fluently speak their language. And I think they jumped on the America bad, Japan good train, and that's carried them ever since COVID during the peak of American depression. And I think it is so fucking lame that I believe Think Before You Sleep is 100% correct on this, because trash taste is, besides Joey, no different than the people who come to America who bitch about our country and don't integrate it to our culture.